Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this relationship video in regards to the several types of people that you need to move on from and let go. Letting go of people is not easy. Human relationships are not easy. They're very complex because once you start integrating two people's psychological perspectives and life experiences and their perceptions on life and love, things can get really challenging and difficult in terms of two people moving together on a forward path of growth and involvement in their relationship. Um, but the thing is, there are certain types of people that you do need to move on and let go, especially if you're in the dating world. I know a lot of people have struggled with this on both genders, men and women, more specifically women, because I think women generally tend to, put up or settle with certain things more than others. But um, yeah, when you're dating somebody and you're seeing these red flags or, you're noticing certain behaviors and trends that are not, you don't think that are for your highest good, then you really have to discern whether this person is really right for you, especially in the long-term future, no matter how much you like them. I've talked about this in other relationship videos that some of the hardest lessons that we have to go through in life is learning how to let go of some of the people that we care about the most. And I'm saying that a little bit lightly just because, like I said, humans are complex and you do have to work together. I see this a lot in certain long-term relationships where the men are not as willing to do some form of counseling because they think of it as a failure, and maybe that's some societal standard as well, where men are supposed to be tough and be able to handle all their things, and getting help from an outside source like a counselor or a pastor or something like that is kind of perceived as weak or like it's the end road or they messed up. But the reality is, when you can get that that third party outside perspective, it can really help bridge the gap between the two um, psychological perspectives. So the type of people that you need to move on from or let go, the first one is abusive people of any kind. That is a given. Anybody that is abusive, whether that's spiritual, physical, emotional, sexual, mental abuse, you really need to walk on and let them go. Narcissism, being with a narcissist in itself is emotional abuse. A lot of times it's like they are sucking and draining all of your life force energy from you, but it's really important to move on from those people because they're going to continue to take you down into the dumps and the pits of your own emotional and psychological state. And it's really hard to dig yourself out of these deep trenches and holes the further down you go. So it's really important to recognize these signs and either try to work on it. And if it's not being worked upon, then it is time to possibly walk forward. Obviously, if somebody has a substance abuse, that's also another given. Don't expect that person is going to change. Anybody who is having some form of substance abuse, or if they just drink a lot or something like that, smoke a lot of weed, that is something that is highly concerning, and you should probably move on and walk away from them. Now, I will say the law of attraction usually, works out. Losers find each other, sophisticated people find each other, spiritual people find one another. So these things tend to work out. So if you have substance abuse issues, or maybe you've had a parent who had a substance abuse issue, and then you kind of tracked men or women who are alcoholics and things like that, then that's a lot of behavioral patterning that you're going to have to look at and kind of work through with a counselor. So another type of person that you should move on from and let go, especially in the dating world, I would say, like, I'm not saying in the early stages of dating, but uneven desires. If two people have two different life goals, or one person believes in marriage, the other person doesn't, you might need to discern that situation or judge it and realize, like, hey, if your number one goal in life is to get married, and you have the potential of wasting years of your time waiting to see if the person that doesn't believe in marriage will end up changing his or her mind, and or you might have to sacrifice what you want. So those are certain things like uneven desires. This is where you find a lot of what people's intentions are, and then you can realize whether to stay or to move on. Like one example would be if the guy wants to be friends with benefits, but the girl wants to be a girlfriend, you need to take him seriously on what he's telling you, because a lot of times women will enter these certain situations kind of blinded by love and emotion, and hoping that, if they do these things, he's going to change his mind. But for the most part, a lot of guys are very set in their ways. And so if he only wants to be your friend with benefit, that's most likely where you will always stand in his eyes. Very rarely, there are exceptions. It does change, but for the most part, you need to learn how to walk on from that relationship, to find what you are looking for, and to have enough self-worth and self-confidence to realize, you know what, in someone else's eyes, I am worthy enough to be their girlfriend and not just their, bed buddy. So another type of person or relationship that you need to move on from or let go is stagnation or no forward movement. I really do believe that life is this continuous progress and evolvement of change. So change can be good or bad. We all go through times of, excellent moments. We all go through hardships, but I just believe, like, if there's stagnation and no forward movement, like, this millennial generation is so bizarre to me, especially the ones that are born in the late 80s and early 90s. These people are like, there's a couple I know, they've been dating for 6 years and he's still not ready to move in with her. And who knows what that means in marriage. It's kind of like people are just hanging on to some form of convenience. And it shouldn't be like that, because it's not fair to one person, or it's not fair to both people, because the reality is he might not be ready to move in with her, but he'll meet someone else and he'll move in exactly right away with her, within 3 months of being with that person. So I just think if there's stagnation, like there's no label on the relationship, or there's no forward growth in seeing each other in your lives in the future, whether that's moving in or marriage or something like that. And there's a lot of people that are just happy with certain types of relationships, and that's completely fine, and you don't need to necessarily let go or move on from that. But I'm just saying, like, if you want more in life, like if your end goal is to have a family or to get married with somebody, you have to be able to learn how to walk away from the things that are not bringing you closer to your goals in life. So if you really like a guy and he still can't figure out after 5 to 6 years if he wants to live with you or marry you, it's like you really need to take a look in the mirror and realize the potential of your future is 50-50 with that person. Either 50% chance it's going to go in your favor, or 50% chance it's going to end up in heartbreak, and then you're going to be the one in tears, and then you're going to look back at your life realizing that you just wasted the last 6 years of your prime years, when you could have been spending that time and energy with somebody else who had the same desires and goals in life as you. I think, too, the other person that you need to move on from or let go are people with shitty attitudes. And I'm not just talking about, like, shitty attitudes on the government or on corruption. I'm just saying, like, shitty attitudes on genders. Like, regardless if you're a man or a woman, if you're a woman that thinks that all men are disgusting assholes, like, your perception has to change. If you're a guy that thinks all women are needy and are clingy and or are gold diggers, then that's a shitty attitude, and you need to change your life perspective. A lot of us, especially once you hit your 30s, all of us have some form of baggage or some relationship that didn't actually work out the way that we planned, whether someone got hurt or it's a divorce, someone broke up with you and left you behind. Just because you've had that one or two or that couple shitty life experiences doesn't necessarily reflect an entire group of each person's gender. If you look at 7 billion people on the planet, say half are men, half are women, so it's 3.5 billion people on each side. you're dealing with people from all different cultures and races and countries that have different moral systems and values. And you cannot compare there's even cultural differences in America, like comparing a guy from the Pacific Northwest to somebody from Connecticut or from Cleveland, Ohio. Like, there are different moral values that occur on opposite ends of the country. And so, at least from me being divorced, like, it would be really easy for me to walk around saying all men are assholes and things like that. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, my ex was never an asshole to me. It's just the relationship didn't work out. So the point is, you need to change these shitty attitudes. And a lot of times you attract what you reflect. So if you think women are clingy and needy, you're going to be attracting probably desperate and needy women. It's like life, everything in life is like a magnet. So if you're constantly focusing on like gold digger women, or are fearful of attracting a gold digger woman, like, it might happen to you because you're so fixed on this fear that fear and negativity, it is like a magnet. It's going to draw it into you. So you have to change these perspectives and judge everybody individually. I've had my heart torn out and ripped to shreds by men, even in college. And it's like, I didn't move forward in my marriage or move forward now at the age of 34, with potentially dating somebody with all that shit in my past to judge and to bring that into that current situation. You have to heal your past, and you have to be able to take some form of responsibility for what you let into your life. Like, that's the reality of it. If you've let somebody emotionally abuse you for 20 or 30 years, you have a lot of healing to do, but you also have to move forward in your life to make sure that you're not going to have the same type of partnerships, or you can see these red flags right away to where you can put a boundary or to move forward and walk away from them. So I really think, if you can focus on some of the best qualities that we have in each gender, finding a really good spouse today is almost like finding a needle in a haystack. It's not easy, and I don't think it'll happen overnight, but I do think good people are out there. It's just, I do think a lot of great people tend to find their life partners in their 20s, or, somewhere in that, like, college age range to early 30s, and move forward. And so I do think a lot of great people are taken, but I just don't think that everybody who's not taken is like horrible. I just think it's a lot harder to find what you're looking for, and it's important not to move forward with things that are either stagnant or they're uneven desires, or someone's still kind of wondering, if they believe if marriage is a sacred bond or if it's just a business contract. So it's like, if you're ready for marriage in your life, you want to be with somebody who is also ready for marriage in their life, or that's the next step forward in the direction that they want to go into. And if it's not, then, and if they're a great person and they have a shitty attitude about it, maybe you two can work on this. But it's like, you need to learn when it is time to move forward and walk away. And this is where it gets really complicated, because humans are so complex. It's hard to discern what to hang on to and what to move forward from. A lot of that will come with your intuition. Maybe there'll be some things like counselors or some other tips out there. But, this is kind of generic information. If I'm talking about the same subject with, say, Christians, that perspective is going to be a lot different than it would be with logical people, because a lot of Christian people do, or just spiritual people, believe like you should be moving forward with somebody who is on the same wavelength as you spiritually, who you are moving forward with your progress and growth with God and your relationship with God, but also with that man or that woman that's in your life. So, it's like a balancing act between those two. A lot of logical, non-spiritual based relationships obviously won't have that same perspective, but it is still kind of good to think about, the moving forward. in life. And you see this a lot with men who make a lot of money. It's like they'll bitch and complain about women being gold diggers, but they have absolutely no problem on, dropping a shit ton of money on cars and all their little toys and stuff that they buy. And sometimes that makes the girl feel kind of crummy, that it's like, well, you're complaining how you don't want to get married because you don't have enough money to buy, rings, or you want to be financially stable enough, but yet you're continuously blowing money on all this other stuff. So it's like something's just not right there. So these are some thoughts I've had about some type of people or relationships that you need to move on from and let go of. Sometimes they're really hard. Sometimes you have to put in a lot more work. Obviously, we all would love to have a relationship start, grow, and evolve like what you see in a Hollywood movie, but the reality is you're dealing with real humans and not with a fictional story. So anyways, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to share them. You can also subscribe to this channel. You can help me build it. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon. And you can see some further blog links and video links down below that kind of pertain to this topic. All right, thank you guys. Bye.